Hi, this is Steve Reifman, and we are still celebrating the 50-year anniversary of my Stevie Wander. And this week, it's all about Jerusalem. Enjoy. I really wasn't there that long. I think it was 5 days spending my time in the hotels near the walls and going into the city, the old city, over and over again and experiencing this just incredible place that was so full of spirit. I don't call myself religious, I do call myself spiritual. And the wall behind me with its caper bushes, believe it or not, is just the heart of it all. And as you'll see, we repeat going back to the wall and going up above to the Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. And then ultimately speaking, Lynn and Stevie Wander leave reading one of their Bibles that they could take with them, a small compact Bible that I've showed you, and making their way to the kibbutz and the homecoming away from home with the gang at the kibbutz, people they had ran into on the road. Alan and Polly were there, and it's quite a nice, wonderful time as another respite before, and we're going to hear it coming, the hard road hits again, and here it comes. Enjoy. Jerusalem is a big city. We were staying and focusing on the old city, but there's a new city. And it was there that we went to find American Express. And as you can see, Jerusalem is much beyond the confines of the old city. And it is an Israeli city and a modern type city. After being in the old city at or about the wall and going in and really finding a lot of incredible religious and spiritual issues, as well as just enjoying the basic scene in the old city, we had to go to the new city. Lynn and I went there because American Express was where the letters were that we were waiting for, that I was particularly waiting for. And I went there and I picked up about 5 letters. It was really something. It was a barrage to me of home, if you will, in spite of the fact that here I was living in this exotic land. Also, we went and bought tickets to fly from Tel Aviv, the Lod airport, to Nicosia, which is the capital of Cyprus, an island off the coast of Lebanon. That was a way for us to get out of Israel. It was very difficult to leave Israel because you couldn't go by land. You had to either go by ocean, some kind of a boat, or you had to fly out. So anyway, it was a very emotional thing for me to read all the letters, and emotional for me to be leaving Israel in any way. And I was really looking forward to it, but I was also kind of not looking forward to this home away from home, leaving it. The Holy Bible that you see behind me is one that was given to me by some Arab Christians. In the hotel we were staying at, Lynn and I were approached and told, well, would you like to have a Bible? He said, well, we would. We have some, but we'd like something that's a little more compact and more easily transferable to take with us on the road. Well, it was Friday evening, and of course, this is the beginning of the Sabbath for the Jews in the Holy City. And we were getting ready to leave and go meet with some friends of ours because Steve was coming back with his girlfriend that he was picking up someplace. Lynn and I, as we were leaving, go down into the lobby, and there are 3 or 4 Arab Christian fellows, and they've got these beautiful Bibles with them. And they say, oh, we have these for you. And we went, oh, really? Well, we were trying to leave, but we really couldn't be rude. And they started having us read from the Holy Bible. They would tell me what page to turn to, what section of the Bible. And they were asking me to read in particular. And I was reading from Isaiah, and I was reading certain parts of the Bible, which were pretenses, preferable to the coming of Jesus in the Bible. And They were hallmark statements about the coming of the Messiah. And I'd be reading them, and these guys were going, hallelujah, this boy's going to be a preacher. And I'm reading this stuff, and I'm, well, I don't even know what's going on, because they were really beyond me. And in the middle of all this, Steve Mahoney, his girlfriend, show up, and they see what's going on. They, oh, we're getting out of here. We don't want to get involved in this stuff, because it kind of gave you the heebie-jeebies a little bit. And they took off. Lynn and I finished up, and then finally we said goodbye, but we were late and we were perturbed, and we walked towards the holy wall to see what was going on at the Wailing Wall on that Sabbath Eve.
It's Saturday morning in Jerusalem, so where else are you going to go? You've got to go back to the Wailing Wall. And the four of us, Lynn, myself, with Steve and his English girlfriend, went up to the two mosques on the Temple Mount. I broke down and I paid 1 lira for the two mosques, but it was worth it for their beauty. Both had individual characters. The dome of the rock was ornate beyond belief on top of the incredible rock, which has so much historical, religious, and spiritual meaning. And there we are with the rock covered by the dome. The Al-Aqsa is much simpler, more like a huge cavernous hall with fine rugs. This is actually a place where Islamic people go to pray. It would have been really something to see it filled with Muslims praying. In the future, we will get to see and be a part of a Muslim prayer session.
In ending my time in Jerusalem, I like to read from a letter I sent to my family, because I think it really sums it up. Well, after hitching back through the desert, I made it to the holy city. And Jerusalem was the holy city for me. It was as if God was chasing me through the fantastic streets of the old city. Everywhere I was confronted with Jesus people. It got really crazy. I've always been interested in Christ, but it got ridiculous. In 3 days, I was given a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, a Hindu holy book, and 2 copies of the Old and New Testament. I got a beautiful compact version of the Bible. I've wanted one for a long time. The Wailing Wall was inspirational. I prayed there 4 times. I haven't done Hebrew prayers in 8 years, but I put on the tefillin and it was a trip. But to stand in front of the wall with the Hasidic Jews and pray was really something. It's hard for me to explain my 5 days in Jerusalem, but they were so fantastic. I had a free tour with an historian from Canada to many holy spots. The Arabs on the streets are so beautiful, so much to experience and see everywhere. But Jerusalem was really another high point. So much to see. And might I add, so much to feel. Another big deal about the travel at this point is music. You know, there's always music wherever I go. The Arabic music, the lilting, unusual tunes that just seem to be everywhere are in your brain. And of course, I'm walking around and I've got my little flute and I'm playing it, and I got a harmonica. And, you know, I'm not a talented musician, but I enjoy to have fun with it. And I think most people who I was with in those days, you know, they enjoyed it too. But it was really a big part of the trip. And of course, the missing of the music that I was brought up on was a very longing thing. And it was part of the home that I was missing. It was a big deal about the music, especially being somebody from Motown and having been brought up watching the Temptations, Miracles, and Stevie Wander at the Motown Review few nights a year. We'd go down there when I was a teenager, you know, just keep on going. And, you know, and you start getting that Motown music you hear wherever you go. You know, it was a prideful thing for me. And one last thing about that, the American thing, you know, being an American on the road, it made you, even in those days, and maybe especially, you were a target. The Vietnamese War was not a popular thing amongst the whole world, and wasn't very popular in the United States. And one of the reasons that I was able to do this travel is because I was able to avoid the draft with a case of asthma that was enough to get me out of it, but it wasn't enough to keep me from walking around the world. So anyway, I want to say this. I'm wearing an American flag on my back, this hippie with his wild hair, and I'm the epitome, in some sense, of the American hippie. And that's part of the adventure I'd like to share with you.
To make the most of our holy rounds after experiencing the Temple Mount and the Islamic wonderful church buildings, we find our way to the Holy Sepulcher Church. Not too moving, but we're still grooving on fantastic Jerusalem. Then Lynn and I part with Steve and his chick near the Damascus Gate and around noon. It's a sad farewell. We really enjoyed these people. A late start to hitchhike to Ayelet HaShachar kibbutz. It's a late start for Lynn and I to try to make it back to the Ayelet HaShachar kibbutz. And as we go out to the fork in the road outside of Jerusalem, we picked up our Bibles. And I will never forget, I opened it up and Lynn looked to me and I turned to Genesis 1:1 and I wrote and read, "In the beginning." And it really was the beginning of a spiritual study with the books that we had received and the experiences in Jerusalem.
When you leave Jerusalem, you leave your heart and your soul behind. And it really was a time of, in a sense, fleeing from that incredible experience because it was just too much to handle. But it was also a very fulfilling experience and one that you wanted to take with you, and you did. And we hitchhiked our way up, Lynn and I. 2 hours and 9 minutes. I'm sure it took us 3 or 4 hours. Bunch of rides with military. And we got to Ayelet at night, and it was a homecoming.
We don't get back to the kibbutz until around 8 p.m. Saturday night. And this brings back many acquaintances. It's like old home week. And the disco is on with the great records. About 8 of us start really jamming. And the locals don't know what to make of it. Me and Toronto Allen, I call him the Calcoon, really get down. I tire out, but the Calcoon puts on one of the finest shows I've ever seen anywhere. 4 hours straight of some of the heaviest jamming to Woodstock, Santana, and finally the Stones. What a group of animals we were. Really a great time on the kibbutz for Saturday night, just like old home week.
The preview of week 25. We start out in the beauty of the kibbutz again, and the homecomings and the parties and the fun of seeing Clyde the camel, and then leaving and hitchhiking with Lynn, Alan, and Polly to the town of Haifa on the Mediterranean coast, and then going off to Lod Airport and flying out of Israel after 10 weeks to Cyprus, where the adventure picks up with the Greeks and Turks on the island at each other's throats and some adventures there. And then finally saying goodbye to Lynn and getting on a potato and artichoke boat, making my way to Lebanon, where some adventure continues after a few days there, and then winding up in Syria. We'll see you next week, week 25. I put my hand on a stone in the wall, close my eyes and pray. I pray for world peace, for love, and the brotherhood and sisterhood of all mankind. As we are exiting the Wailing Wall site, we come across this exuberant, extroverted nun. It's evident that she is filled with much happiness, cheerfulness, and love. Quite the extreme from the somberness at the wall. Love is everywhere, my friends. I am love. You are love. Dissolve all hate and negativity in your heart. Give your heart to Jesus Christ, and you will see a transformation of your soul, the nun pleads. She comes up to us and hugs Lisa. Then the love nun hugs me. I feel a spark of her energy. Then she hugs Steve. Here, This is for you, she says. I reach out to receive a copy of the Old Testament and a copy of the New Testament. I've been looking for these and asking around, I say. I know you have, smiles the love nun. Now go forth and learn to become a vessel of love. God gave you the gift of life. You pay back that gift by becoming love. The love nun then leaves us to go over to another group of people. The three of us stand here, speechless, wearing big smiles on our faces. The love nun leaves a lasting impression on each of our souls. Humankind is closely knit into the fabric of nature and the life of the planet. To be misunderstood and misinterpreted has been a barrier amongst peoples and cultures from time immemorial. What is the common thread of harmony that rights all peoples and sustains the peaceful goodwill? Self-generated destiny is essential to my ongoing growth, progress, and development. I am the center of my own universe. My job in life is to evolve me. The play of destiny connects me to the cosmic source. I am in harmony therewith.